Hello and welcome, it's Neil Dugan here, and the first of the last three videos in the Great Depression Challenge. We're going to look at the three major barriers to the upward cycle of enlightenment. So this is the way in which we are counterbalancing the more normal downward spiral of depression and anxiety, and we're converting this into this upward spiral around enlightenment and awakening. And we're going to have a look at each of the three phases in the cycle and look at the major barrier sitting inside them. And the major barrier sitting inside each one of them is related to an imaginary construct. So these are things which are created out of nothing, effectively, and their relationships. So the first one we're going to begin with is the ego. Well, it all begins with an idea. When I talk about the ego, I'm talking about the imaginary idea that we create about ourselves. So, of course, Sigmund Freud was talking about something a little bit different, and he was talking about a kind of intermediary structure between some sort of higher motivation and the baser self of an individual. And in common use, we talk about the ego as being, perhaps vanity or something like that we're talking about. But in the use that I'm putting this word to here, what I'm talking about is the imaginary construct. So it's a set of imaginary concepts, imaginary ideas, lots of belief systems which have imagination associated with them, memories that are associated to imaginary constructs. All of these things are imaginary. Now this ego, the way that we're looking at this concept of an ego, is closely related to the intellect. In fact, it forms a part of the intellect. So this is the real intelligence, the high intelligence of we humans, and the ego forms part of it. So we have the pure intellect, which is completely objective, and then we have this imaginary construct, which is full of all these imaginary habits and patterns and thoughts and ideas and all that kind of stuff, which are all fabricated. But it forms a subset of the intellect. In many ways, in operation, you could consider it to be a false intellect, because it's so powerful and it's so strong that it appears to be logical. So the ego can appear to be very, very logical. So we make decisions based on an egoic concept, which can seem absolutely justifiable, completely and utterly justifiable. And as such, it has the particular danger of being believable. But it remains the ego, it remains as an imaginary construct. Of course, the ego is actually disguising the true function of the intellect, which is to reconcile based on very, very factual observation. So lots of good information, and the ego is disguising this role, this actual purpose of the intellect. It's also distracting us away from the opportunity of creating creative solutions. So true creativity can come through from the intellect as well, and the ego completely disguises or diverts us away from the opportunity of actually expressing true creativity. It also provides lots of protection against seeing the truth. This is a two-edged sword, because sometimes we actually need to be protected from the truth, and we can see that the ego in this way is actually a divine protection. It's a way of actually protecting us so that we don't overload, we don't actually get completely consumed. And if I look back on my own journey with depression and anxiety and mania, if I was to have seen how I was truthfully at the time, then I would have been dead. It would have killed me. I would have taken a knife to myself. So this ego actually helped to protect me and to keep me alive. So it has a positive function. However, the positive function has another side to it, which is that it prevents us from actually getting into this awakening cycle. Now, the brother or sister entities that sit alongside the ego in the emotions and in the practical mind, or the moving center, are the pain body and the disease body. And the ego conspires with each of these to make sure that the intellect and the emotions and the practical mind aren't getting involved fully in the process. But of course, we're talking specifically about the ego here today, and the pain body and also the disease body both conspire with the ego to prevent the intellect getting proper information. Now, the pain body and the disease body get to benefit out of this arrangement by virtue of being fed permissions. In particular, in case of the disease body, the ego gives permissions to the disease body to get on with its job of fabricating ways in which the the physical body can get sick, and the ego gives the permissions to the pain body to actually accumulate more and more suffering, and all of these emotional feelings around the suffering that goes with it. So the ego collaborates and provides the permission into the pain body to do that. Equally, the ego is fed back by the experiences of the pain body and also the disease body. So the experiences that are occurring inside either of those two entity-like imaginary constructs will be being fed back in to create new ideas, to create new judgments, to create new justifications, and so that the ego actually becomes more and more supported based on the experience that's being fed back to it from the pain body and the disease body. And indeed, lastly, we can see the ways in which indirectly the physical body is being fed by the ego, because we come up with all these crazy ideas, goes through all the feelings, ends up in the disease body, where the disease body makes up a disease wrapped around it, or the blueprint of it at the very least, and the body goes away and gets sick. So the body actually creates this illness based on this, and it all goes back the other direction. We can see an indirect loop from the physical body and its suffering, so we actually get pain in the literal physical body, suffering of all kinds, and that feeds up through this layer of imaginary mind back into the ego, and next thing you know, the ego has been fed again and it's becoming stronger and more powerful. Alright, so what do we do about this? Well, the good news is that the ego and its sister or brother companions, the pain body and the disease body, give us every piece of information that we need for us to work on ourselves and for us to wake up. So we need look no further than the ego, the pain body and the disease body for the information we need to actually determine the steps that we need to take. So there's a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous bind, but inside that bind is a tremendous opportunity. So the ego has a particular role to play in the reconciling phase, the phase where we're actually creating we have the creative solutions occurring, and this is where the ego becomes null and void. So what we do is we allow the true intellect to come in and step in at this point, which then requires that the ego recedes in dominance. So as the true intellect gets more and more strong, then during this phase of the cycle, then the ego diminishes, and step by step, little by little, the ego diminishes. So in the future webinars, we will talk a lot more about what we can actually do with the ego. That's really all we've got time for today. So do look out for the webinars, and I hope you found that useful. If you have, please like or share and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow about the pain body. So thanks for watching. Catch you tomorrow. Bye.